So Mike, we're really glad to get you in here today and show us how you do all that great stuff in acrylic.
All right.
So the floor is yours.
All right. So how many of you are acrylic painters? Okay. So you can keep me in check, okay?
Wannabes.
I've tried watercolors. I hate it. I hate them with a passion. I have a lot of respect for people who can use watercolors. For me, it's just an absolute mess. It has a mind of its own, and they say that's the beauty of it. I go, look, my mind's messed up enough. I don't need to be playing around with watercolors. I tried them. I tried oils. I tried pastels. I'm even dabbling a little bit in colored pencils. But my real love is acrylic painting. As John said, I'm originally from Long Island. We live now in Randolph, New Jersey. We've been here, I don't know, maybe 28, 29 years. I worked right down the road for Organon Pharmaceuticals for about 30 years. So I was in sales and marketing in the drug business. So we worked in women's health. So I'm very in tune with women. I don't know if my wife would agree with me on that, but, you know. And someone was commenting about my attire, and this is what I usually use when I'm painting. And I paint most days because I'm retired now. And if I have to run out to the store, I don't bother changing, which drives my wife nuts. Because she'll say, you're going out looking like that. I go, that's okay. Then people know I'm an artist, right? So I like to do a lot of detailed work. I won't say I'm obsessive compulsive, but I really like detail. And I'm going to show you a couple pieces of my work. But where I started all of this is pretty unique, I think. I used to work on models. So back in the day, I used to paint these guys. Right, so I'm going to leave them out here. So I must have 100 of these guys.
Did you sculpt them?
No, I don't sculpt them. I'm not that good.
Okay.
I just paint them. So they're resin kits. I buy them. And I used to have them on the shelf. My studio's in a bonus room, and I had all these kind of monsters up there. And when we had my younger nieces and nephews come, they would freak out to have to sleep in that room because there was stuff looking at them from the walls. So I went from that to now this. So this is Lon Chaney as the werewolf. I just finished him about a week ago.
That's fantastic.
And he's resin. So this is how he comes. It's kind of white, so you prime him. And these I will actually use water-based oils, pastels, and even have some airbrushing I do. So when I'm not painting in my studio, my wife only allows me to do these in the basement. I can't display them anywhere in the house, but occasionally what I'll do is she has a big kitchen curio thing in the kitchen, right? This white thing, and she's got all the tchotchkes and all this other crap in there. So when I know people are coming over, I'll go downstairs, grab a couple Draculas, stick them in the cupboard, and I wait to see how long it takes her to find out that they're there. And usually it's when company arrives. She goes, God damn it, Mike, why is that in there? Well, I live here too, right? I mean, we can't all have these nice little tchotchkes. But anyway, so people will say artistically I have a split personality. Maybe I'm schizophrenic. My wife will say I'm just crazy. So I paint either as John alluded to, I was originally doing a lot of farms and barns. That was kind of where I started with all of this. And then I do that, so here's one example of a barn. This one I think is up in West Milford. I think it's the Wallish Homestead or something. They used to have an art show up there every May. But when I went up there, I saw this windmill, and I said, man, I got to paint that. So I went up there, I don't know how many times, because I wanted to get a photograph of it when the lighting was right. So I was pretty happy with that. Then if I get into my real softer side, we touch with my feminine side. Then I'll paint some flowers,
Nice.
So this was actually from Alaska. So I went all the way to Alaska to photograph 2 boots with pansies in it against a blue house. I don't think I've been painting anything else from Alaska. This is the only thing I painted. I must have taken 500 photographs. This is the only thing I remember painting from Alaska. But again, these are all acrylic. Then when I flip my brain over and decide to do something different, then I do this kind of stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so play on.
I haven't had an inspiration for a title yet. I'm still thinking. And I haven't built a frame for it yet, so that's why it's unframed. So there's this guy. This one does have a title. It says, "Waiter, there's a hair in my soup." How did I come up with that? I have no idea. I think I saw a cartoon with a rabbit, and it said, you know, "There's a hair in my soup." I said, I can do something with that. And then I do a lot with monkeys. People like buying monkey paintings. I don't know why, but they do. Every monkey painting I painted, somebody's buying it. So then I did this guy with a barrel full of monkeys. Then I just finished one. My wife looked at it and go, "What are you drinking?"
That's good sense of humor.
No, this is very serious. You know, it's not polite when people laugh at your artwork. So yeah, he's just about done. I'm pretty happy. I was struggling with the blue and the gold up here. I said, you know, I've got to have it someplace else, so where could I put it? So first I thought, well, maybe I'll put nail polish on them. And I said, nah, maybe not. So then I said, how about a little ring on the bottom here, so you go here to here and then back. So it kind of kept some harmony, right? I'm not formally trained, so I don't know all the lingo.
That's all right.
So that's kind of what I do.
Need to be trained.
Do you use a reference photo for those?
No, those are actually cousins or friends of mine. Yes, I do. For these guys, I get a lot of my inspiration. I just go on Google Images and I'll type in, give me wacky animals. And I'll get giraffes or elephants or monkeys or whatever. And then I say, okay, what can I do with that? How can I spin that? I go to a lot of antique stores just to browse around and see some of the crazy stuff that might be in there. And I go home. I've done a lot of paintings with, remember those old-time mechanical banks? You put a penny in, you hit the thing, and you fly. I did 5 or 6 of those. And people were buying it because it was nostalgic for them, right? So I kept doing it, and then I kept buying banks. Now I got like 10 banks at home. My wife goes, "What the hell are you going to do with these?" I go, "I don't know. We got banks." So if you had the original ones, they're like 4 or 5 grand a piece. You know, these are all Taiwanese, China on the bottom, so they're pretty cheap. So I'm not going to spend $500 for a bank to do a painting. I'll spend $20, $30, but I'm not going to spend $500 because I'm lucky if I get $500 for the painting. So I made a list here. I'm going to try to go through things. So when I started painting, I started probably about, maybe 18 years ago. And then we moved to Denmark as part of my job. And I was there for 2 or 3 years and had a lot of free time on my hands. And I was painting all these model stuff. And I finally said to myself, I'm going to try painting this stuff on canvas. How hard could it be? So I called my mother in the States. I said, send me some Bob Ross tapes. So she sent me a bunch of Bob Ross, and I'm there trying to bang out a Bob Ross painting. And they didn't look too good. But my mother saw one of them, loved it, had it framed. It's like, Mom, really? Come on. Now that sits in a basement buried someplace. I don't show those. So then I came back, and then Randolph has an artwork studio, which was like an open studio on Wednesday nights. So I tried to make sure that I wasn't traveling, and I could attend that on Wednesday nights. And that's where I started playing with oil and acrylic. I didn't really know what the heck I was doing. And then I retired about 14 years ago, and I took a couple courses up at the County College of Morris. I took Drawing 1, Drawing 2, I took Color Theory, I took Painting 1, Painting 2. I thought I knew color, right? You know, what's the complementary color? What's the big deal here? But, you know, color theory really opened my eyes to everything in terms of understanding color and how it interplays with one another. And again, I won't say that I'm an expert on it, but I have a better understanding of it. And then all of a sudden, just something clicked about maybe 10 years ago. All of a sudden, it was like, no, this isn't too bad. And then I did a Morristown art walk, and somebody actually came by and bought 2 or 3 of my paintings. I'm thinking, whoa, okay, must be on. And they were all farms and barns. And then, you know, people were saying, how much do you charge for a painting? Right? I mean, do you guys have that same question? How much do I charge? So I'm sitting there going, all right, if I paint it and it takes me 50 hours and I get $10 an hour, I'm not even making minimum wage. But you know, I'm walking around these other exhibits and I'm seeing, and I had to be pretty honest with myself and say, look, I'm about here. I'm not up here, right? So I'm walking around and I'm looking for people that are like me, that I think, okay, I'm on their level. What are they charging? And that's where I started. I said, okay, if they're getting $500 for an 18 by 24, I'll get $500 for an 18 by 24. And then as I got a little bit better over the years, I said, okay, my prices now start to come up. I'm still not making minimum wage because a painting like that will take me 50, 60 hours, right? I may get $900 for that thing. But for me, it's more of a, I won't say it's, I guess it's kind of a hobby. If I had to live off of this, I'd be living in a pop-up tent outside. So it was that, then all of a sudden something clicked, people started buying it, and I said, okay, maybe I'm onto something. And then, I don't know where I got onto this animal stuff. I started doing these 10 by 10 stuff. There was a guy that I worked with who was down in Louisville, Kentucky, and he was posting animal pictures on Facebook. And I saw a giraffe. I said, whoa, that's a professor, right? He should have spectacles on and this and that. And then there was another one of a monkey, an ape. I said, okay, he's smoking a cigar with an earring. And I painted like 10 of those. And I went to a show and I sold 6 of them. I said, okay, there are other wacky people out there like me, right? And my wife goes, no one's going to buy this stuff. I said, well, Moira, so far so good, right? So then I do a fair amount of outdoor festivals. That's where I do a lot of my selling. I try to sell anyway. So I do a couple shows here in New Jersey. You know, I have the pop-up tent, I have the racks, I have all that other crap that you need. The biggest show I do is up in Mystic, Connecticut, and it's always the second weekend of August. And it's a 2-day show, and it's packed. There's probably 150 artists there. And I mean, we're talking quality work. I never make any money because we have to stay at a very nice B&B, so that runs me $400 a night. Then my wife invites her friends and relatives for breakfast, lunch, and dinners. So even if I sell $4,000 worth of paintings, I'm just barely making even by the time I pay all the bills. So I try to convince her not to go, but I'm not very successful. I always say, you don't feel well today, do you? Maybe you should stay home. But no, that doesn't happen. So I like acrylic because it dries fast. And people say, that's terrible. I hate that stuff. It dries too fast. I don't know how to work with it. And I will agree that learning how to blend acrylics is not the easiest thing in the world to do. But once you figure it out, it ain't that bad. I like it because I make mistakes. I'm not going to tell you where they are. But when I make the mistake, I hit it with a hairdryer, I paint over it, and I keep going. Watercolor, forget it. You make a mistake, and it's like, what am I going to do? You can't lift it. You can do this. No, I'm not bothering with that crap. I want to do acrylic paint. Oil takes too long for me to dry. You know, I want to get going. I don't want to wait for it. The next layer's got to dry, and then another layer's got to dry. It's like, forget it. So, I'm very methodical in how I lay out my paint. And that's a little more So this is how my studio, this is how the table at my studio looked like. So I primarily use, those of you that use acrylic probably know I use either Liquitex or Golden. And Winsor Newton used to make them, but Jerry stopped carrying Winsor Newton. You know, Jerry is our Costco, right? We go in and buy one thing, and $150 later I walk out with stuff I really didn't need, but I had to have it. So they stopped carrying Winsor Newton because he said the quality, I guess somebody bought Winsor Newton and the quality went down. And the canvases, I used to always buy Winsor Newton canvases, and they started to come in warped all the time. So somehow they changed the manufacturing of it, and the product is crap. So I don't buy anything Winsor Newton anymore. I don't buy any of their canvases. I can't even find them. So, and I just found this other brand. I was looking for a ultramarine, and this is Chauvin, I think it's called.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Beautiful colors.
What is it?
Huh?
What's the name again?
Chauvin, Charvin. I don't know, maybe it's French. I don't know what the hell.
What if they make watercolors, transparent watercolor?
I don't care about watercolor, John.
Yeah, I
I've seen you likes Amazon or cherries?
This was not Amazon. This is actually in France. So yeah, but it was a beautiful color. I mean, when I pulled it out of the tube, I'm thinking, okay, am I going to get a lot of filler and not a lot of pigment? No, there's a lot of pigment in this. So I think from now on, I may look for these. Jerry doesn't carry them. Michael certainly doesn't carry them.
Are they more expensive than the typical?
It really wasn't. It really wasn't that much more. No. I'll wait for Michael's. When I get their coupon, and let's say I need a raw umber, I'll go there with my 50 or 30% off coupon, and I'll get my tube of raw umber. It used to be better when there's competition because it used to be 50 off. Now it's only like 25, 30 off maybe. But I buy all my canvases at Michael's because a lot of times they have buy one, get three free. I'm thinking, I don't know how they make any money on this. And I like the gallery wrap ones, which are the thicker canvases, because technically you don't really have to frame them if you don't want to, but I find that I'd rather frame them. I think it makes them look a little bit nicer. I make my own frames. So this is one. So this is Home Depot poplar, and then a fairing strip, and it's like 4 cuts here, 4 cuts here, clamped, boom. So I'll either use poplar, depending upon the subject I'm using, or I may use oak, and I'll make this a dark color if I'm doing like a landscape, because I think the landscape, the green against the dark really pops. And then there's 2 ways of doing it. This fits perfectly with a normal size canvas, and I'll show you on the back of this one. This is gallery wrapped, so it's framed a little bit differently. But again, Home Depot sells these pieces. And it just so happens it fits perfectly. I kind of lucked into this. So if this ever goes out of style, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because I'm sure as hell I'm not taking these to framers. Because
No.
I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, you walk into a framer and you walk out, $400 later because you had to have a double matte, non-reflective glass, this kind of wood. I'm thinking, give me a break. It's 4 pieces of wood and cardboard, right? So I'm glad I don't do watercolor. That's another reason why I don't like the watercolor. Because if you're selling, right, you got to build that into your price,
Yeah.
right? So, people always say to me, how long did it take you to paint that? I go like an hour. They go, really? I go, yeah. How'd you do that? I said, it's paint by numbers. Pretty easy. Don't you remember those days, with the things, right? So, I'm going to try to demo a couple things with acrylic paint. The other thing I do with all my paints, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I varnish all my acrylic paints. I never used to varnish them. I said, look, it's acrylic. You can throw water on it, nothing happens to it. And then Jerry's is great. They brought in the Liquitex rep, and he was going to do a demonstration of their products. So I went, and when you go, you go home with a bag of stuff. So he's talking about varnishing acrylic paint. I'm going, what the hell am I going to varnish it for? And I'm sitting next to the woman next to me goes, you got to varnish. You're not going to believe the difference when you varnish it. So I went and I bought this brush, right? And I use Liquitex satin. I don't like high gloss because it's too shiny. So satin is nice. And it's really easy. It's like boom, 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 leave it. It self-levels. And what's nice is it has a UV protectant in it. Because when you go to clean your brush, it has a blue tint to it. And also, if you spill anything on it, it wipes off. So it not only protects it from damage of liquids, but also from UV. Not that I would tell someone to put their painting in a window, but if it was getting some indirect sunlight, it's not going to affect the paint. And I usually put on 2 coats. And it's really just boom, 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 done. don't, you know, someone says, I'm using a small brush. I go, the stuff, it'll get too sticky too fast. I said, the stuff, you gotta move quick. And if you miss a spot, you leave it alone, and then you hit it with the second coat.
Have you tried to spray instead?
The problem with sprays is if you're in the winter and you're trying to do a show, where are you gonna spray it? You can't go outside, it's too cold. If I go in the basement, my wife complains she can smell it on the second floor, right? So I can't do it there. So I got away from using sprays. I think this is a lot easier. I think it's cheaper than buying those spray cans. And once you master that brush, it goes pretty quick. But that's, you know, that's the way I do it. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing it the right way. Let's see, what else? The other thing I use, and I know a lot of other my artist friends use this also, is I'm terrible when I'm trying to figure out scale, right? So I've got an image I want to use. Now, should it go on a 16 by 20? Should it go on a 20 by 24, an 18 by 24? I use a projector. So I stick the USB in here. I have a couple tripods at home, and I have the canvases laid out on the floor going, okay, if I crop it here, that works on a 16 by 20. Over here, it's not going to work on a 9 by 12. So I use that to at least help me at least determine which canvas I'm going to use and which composition, because I may have to crop, right? How much do I have to crop? I don't know. And I'm not going to stretch my own canvases. I don't know why people do that. You know, I have to have a 19 by 21 canvas. They don't make that. It's 18 by 24, 20 by 24. So I know people who buy the stretching bars and they stretch themselves and they feel very good about themselves, but I said, that ain't me. I don't have the patience to sit there and try to stretch canvas. I've seen it done. It's a pain in the ass to stretch that canvas.
How does the projector work? What do you mean? You have a white canvas, we have a picture.
I got a USB flash drive in here, right? I turn it on. Let's see, I should have brought a flash drive, but I didn't. So let's assume I'm here,
I have one if you want to use it.
right?
Oh,
So I'm here. So if I want to do a 20 by 24, I come out there. Now, the images will be different, but this is the idea. So if I really want to get in tight and go, I'm looking for an 8 by 10, does it work? Do I want a 36 by 36? I put it out here. But I'm not going to sit there and grid this stuff out 5 different ways to determine which canvas I want to use. So I use this. I ordered it at Amazon a couple years ago.
What is it called?
It's called
Mike Dziomba's projector.
Mike Dziomba's projector. It's from AAXA Technologies. I got it on Amazon, and for me, it's been invaluable. It saves me a lot of time. I don't like to draw. I'd rather paint it than try to draw it. That sounds weird, but don't give me a pen and pencil to draw. I just hate to do that. People say, oh, you must have been drawing all your life. I go, no, I wasn't. I was painting models. So yeah, this is pretty cool. And it wasn't that expensive. I think at the time, I've had this maybe 7, 8 years now. I think it was like $100.
What is it called again?
It's called an AAXA P2B Pico projector. It's an image projector.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's just a little bit, you know, they make the big projectors. You've seen those, right? This is very compact, and it fits nice onto a tripod. So it works well for me.
Where would you get that? The Jerry's?
I got it on Amazon.
Oh, Amazon.
Why is this?
And then I just discovered this. Maybe you guys are aware of this transferring paper.
Yep.
It's white, which I thought was kind of cool because normally I would, you know, do it on tracing paper, take a white charcoal pencil, go over the lines on the back, and then try to transfer it. Now I just use this. So if I'm doing like a landscape and everything is dark, I can use it. Obviously, if it's a monkey like that, maybe it doesn't work because it's too light. But I think it also comes in different colors now.
Red and gray.
Red, blue, I don't know. So I just discovered it. Yeah, it makes blue, yellow, and red.
There's another one I just learned of that transfers in white.
Oh, that's what he said.
No, it's a different name. I think it's actually a foreign or British product. I'm looking for something to transfer an image that I draw onto the pastel paper.
Try that.
And I might try that. I didn't know they came in white, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, you know, it's a long sheet.
Is it erasable? I wonder if it's erasable on the.
It's
paper.
water dissolvable, I know that.
That's not good for.
Not for pastel.
No, but it might dissolve because
It's good for
chalk.
water, as a pastel paper that I use, if you get a millimeter of water on it, it destroys the paper.
But if you're using pastel on this, I would bet that you're able to use it.
I get what, it's Sorrel, right?
Yeah.
Sorrel, yeah.
If you're nice to me, you can take a little piece with you when you go home. And you can try it before you invest.
There's plenty of food back there for you, right?
I wanted savory, you just gave me sweets. All right, so let me at least start trying to demo something. So I'm just looking at my notes here. I remember I was I was at a show, and this guy comes up and he goes, you know, you really need to loosen up. Go, what? He goes, you're too tight. I go, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, your paintings are too tight. I go, well, what do you want? He says, you're not loosening up on this. I go, wait a minute. I said, you listen to music? He goes, yeah. I said, do you like rap? No. I said, start listening to rap and I'll get loose. It's like, I don't understand why people do that. I say, oh, you need, I want to loosen up. Well, why? I mean, I like doing what I'm doing. I like the detail. If you don't like the details, don't buy it. Right? Or some guy comes up to me one time and goes, you didn't do that plein air. You did that from a photograph.
Yeah, sure.
I go, so what? Well, I only paint in plein air. I said, well, where's your booth? He said, I don't have one. So I said, leave it alone. I mean, if you're going to criticize me, show me what you're talking about. I suppose it's saying, well, I don't know. So, I practiced at home. So there are, in my mind, maybe there's others, maybe you know of another one. There are 3 ways that you can blend acrylics. You can do the wet into wet or the smush technique. You can dry brush, or you can glaze or wash. I prefer to wet into wet for a couple reasons. I'll try to demonstrate it. Glazes are nice. The problem is, if I water down my acrylic paint so it's like watercolor, and I put down a layer and I let it dry, and I put another layer on top of it, it picks that layer up. So what I have to do every time is I'll put a layer of wash on it. I have to hit it with a hairdryer, get a nice feathery brush, and put a coat of matte medium over it. Seals it. So then I can put another wash on top of it. And then I hit it again and do it. It's a very laborious process. So for me, I prefer this way where I'm having the paint is wet, I mix them together, and I can play around a lot with it. Dry brush, this is why some of my shirts look this way, is what it says. I'll put a little paint on, I'll get it off, and I'll dry brush the dark color. Then I'll do the white color, and I'm back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So for me, these are very time-consuming. I'd rather move on quickly if I'm doing something. Like with the monkey with the hat, you know, where he's got the white in the front, and it kind of gets darker as it goes back. I don't want to sit there and start glazing that thing. I'd rather smush the technique together. So, let me try to paint something. And I am going to demo, I'm going to try to demo a painting. I have till what, 6
You've got
o'clock?
till
what did
about
I say?
3:30, 3:35.
3:35?
Yeah.
Okay. This is my palette.
Oh, nice clean one.
Isn't it nice?
Put that in your book.
This was the monkey palette. So I didn't want to change it. So behind that is a sponge.
Oh,
Okay, so it's called, I think it's Master Sun is the brand that creates it. You wet the sponge. This is their special paper. You wet the paper, and then you stick it on here, and then the paints don't dry. So if you've got a color mixed and you spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that color is, if it dries out, then you go, damn, what the hell? What did I do? So this at least keeps it. Now after about 3 weeks, it starts to get a little skunky, right? So then you got to change the paper and change the sponge. Some people will put a little drop of bleach in here. I haven't done that. Or someone says put some copper pennies. That's supposed to help reduce the mold or something. I haven't tried that either. When they get bad, I just throw them out, and they're pretty inexpensive enough.
What's the paper, Mom?
What's that?
What's the paper?
This is their paper.
Oh, it's the paper that goes with it?
Yes.
Okay. It comes in a pad, you just take a new clean sheet and you need to...
It's like wax paper.
Well, you can use wax paper
It's a
if
paper
you want,
palette.
you just throw it out.
Yeah,
Oh, it's like a wax paper?
it's not waxy.
It's not wax?
No.
It feels like it.
Has to be
It feels like
porous.
regular paper.
So it's soft when you're pressing down on it. It's soft because it hits the sponge.
Yeah,
Okay.
I try to be gentle.
I had that feeling.
All right. So let's take,
Somebody's phone.
I spend more time trying to find what color paint I want because I'm so methodical on how I lay it out. So this is just a crimson color. And if I want it dark and red, I'll usually throw in some sap green or hooker's green. That's my dark red. What I also did, this was a labor of love. So I took all the colors I had on the top and here,
Wow.
and while it's not 100% scientific, I tried to do like a 50-50 mix, so at least gave me some idea of what colors I could get. I mean, technically, you only need the primary colors, right, to get all these colors? I don't know how to do that. So for me, you know, if I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, well, I need this color green, and I can't, well, how do I get that? And I don't want to just go by the tube, because I never usually green straight out of a tube. It's just, to me, it doesn't look natural. Hooker's green, sap green, you got to add something to it in my mind. So when I did this, and you can see it gets splashed because it sits by my, I have the same easel at home. So when I'm slapping paint on, you know, I'm not the neatest guy. It's all over the walls too. My wife complains about that too. But this was a fun exercise, but it took a lot of time.
You are a detailed guy.
I am.
Logical question.
People say, oh, you must be very patient. I go, talk to my wife. I don't think she would agree. So this is how I carried my brushes in this bamboo thing. And I beat the crap out of my brushes. So I don't buy very expensive, I don't do sable. No. So I go to Jerry's or I go to Hobby Lobby and I'll buy, you know, the 12 brushes for $10. And I beat the crap out of them. So when they're done, I just throw them out. So I don't feel bad. So let's say, I want to put my dark color in here. And I take my red. Work my way up. Throw a little white in here. There's two different whites to acrylic. There's a titanium white and a zinc oxide. Zinc oxide is transparent, whereas titanium is totally opaque. So it is a little dry in this room, so it's going to dry faster than normal, but that's okay. How am I looking on camera, John? You got my good side?
Fantastic.
Got my
Yeah,
good side?
yeah, no problem.
So this is just a process of going back and forth until I get what I'm looking for. You can see why I use my shirt.
You can carry a rag, you know.
What's that?
You can carry a rag with you.
Why bother?
Yeah, you got one on your
I
shirt.
got one on here. And my thought is, every shirt I have is eventually a painting shirt. Because I don't know about you, but if I'm working on a painting, and I've been working on it all day, I got to put it aside because I'm saying something's not right. So I go back at night before I go to bed, and I look at it and I go, oh, right there. So I'll take this and I go like this on the shirt. I go, oh, that's one more painting shirt. Because once you get acrylic on, it doesn't usually come off. Someone said I should resin this, you know, like this, and sell it as a sculpture. Because I probably have 10 shirts that are like this, and only probably another 12 that are waiting to become like this.
That's Charles Reed's problem, was his wife would always get complained. He only did watercolors, but he would sit there and pick the brush off and he'd start putting it all over his shirt just like you did. But I guess you could wash it after that, but.
If you know, I try not to get on my pants, but I have painter's pants as well that look like my shirt. But I'm usually too lazy because I know I got to run out and I don't really feel like putting them on, taking them off. If you get it on you right away and you get it off with water, it usually comes off. But if it dries, it ain't coming off.
Is that essentially a soft brush or a stiff brush, like a
This one
bristle
here?
brush? Yeah.
This was a soft brush, but it's pretty beat up if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's beat up. Because by scrubbing against the canvas, it actually wears down the brush, which is okay. It doesn't bother me. Like I said. And I like to keep these crappy brushes because they're also good when you're doing landscape paintings and you need different textures for brushes or trees or grasses. So the more beat up they are sometimes, you know, I like it. So you get the idea what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Right? So I'm trying to get it to look something like this. So I probably spent 10 minutes to get it to look like that. I don't want to see any hard edges. I want it to kind of met all together. And this is also cheap canvas board, right? What I normally do is when I'm doing a painting, I'll put on 2 or 3 extra coats of gesso because I want to fill that tooth. So that I don't want to see the tooth, because sometimes you'll see an acrylic and an oil painting, you'll see the tooth comes out underneath it. It's like doing this. I don't know if you can see it, but the teeth are showing. Right? I don't want to see that. Now, I could buy linen canvas, which is a really tight weave, but it's probably 3 times the price. And for the average person, they don't know the difference. And afterwards, when you come up and you can touch my paintings, they're as smooth as a baby's backside. Because that varnish really smooths everything out. So that's one way of doing it. I don't know why I never do this. I'm always over here. So now if I'm going to dry brush, so let's say we'll dry brush down here. There's not a lot of paint on the brush. That's the whole idea of dry brushing. So Liquitex must like this because you have to buy more paint.
At what point would you be doing dry brush? Is there like a finishing part, or at the beginning, or where does that fit in general with what you did at the top of the canvas there?
I don't do a lot of dry brushing. I do a lot of this. If I was doing maybe a fruit, like an apple or a pumpkin or something like that, I may do some dry brush technique on that. I'm trying to think what else. I wouldn't do it in landscapes. I don't see a reason to try to dry brush this on. So it's mostly maybe flowers I might dry brush a little bit, but I've never done a whole painting in dry brush.
So there is paint on your brush though, right?
Oh yeah, there's paint on there,
Yeah.
right? But most of it's on my shirt, because if I'm doing this, see,
I see.
it's there. Now, if it becomes too wet, and I don't, then I'm getting this, right? So it's getting more, it's almost like I'm coming back to this, so why bother? So this would be more of like a subtle type change. So I wanted to dry brush the pink. This is going to take a little longer to do. The other problem, I'll say it's a problem until you figure it out, and I don't know if I've ever totally figured it out, Watercolors dry lighter, correct?
Yes.
Acrylics dry darker, which is a pain in the ass. Because I'll put my highlights on, right, and it looks good, go downstairs, have lunch, I come back and go, where'd my highlights go? It just dries darker. So you got to remember that, and so it's constantly putting more and more layers of lighter colors on top until I get what I want. But it's another reason why people don't like acrylics. I mean, oil, you use oil paint, it dries the color of the oil paint. It doesn't dry darker or lesser, from what I understand. But acrylic, you just have to figure it out. Especially when you're doing like yellows, well, I'm trying to do gold, and I want that shine. I don't know how many layers I'm putting on that sucker until I get it to start to shine. So this is another way of
When you did the first 3 red balls, that's color, you didn't mix water with it. That's right out of the tube color?
correct.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Because you have to remember, we're watercolorists, we're always mixing water. Okay.
Well, that's your problem. Not mine.
When I tried acrylics, I acted as though it was watercolor and it came out very, very light because I lightened it too much. I'm not used to doing that.
Well, I think if you put enough water in acrylic, isn't it watercolor?
Yes, it is.
Now, I don't know if it dries darker or lighter. That I've never tried that.
I don't
It
remember.
still dries darker.
It still dries darker.
Because it's got that plastic polymer in it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that'll make everything darken up.
Okay. Somebody, yeah.
When you start a painting, are you always working on the white surface, or do you tone? Because I've seen artists do that, okay? Working in acrylic, that they'll pick some sort of a neutral tone that they'll lay over the entire canvas rather than work on the white surface.
Depends when I'm painting. If I'm doing the wacky stuff, I put the blue down first. Or I'll put down a gray or something. If I'm doing a landscape, I'll show you later what I do with a landscape. It's a little bit different. But I don't tone it. You know, people say they use raw sienna or burnt sienna under everything. I don't do that. Did you
I
have a
have a
question?
question, Mike, about extender
Yeah,
retard.
I got it.
All right,
Don't like it.
never use it.
I use it, the only time I use it, it's a blending, slow drive blending medium. The only time I use it is if I'm doing a big sky and I want a gradation of blue and I want to start dark and I want to get down to the light. Then this stuff dries pretty fast, especially in the summertime when my room is a little bit warmer. So I'll use a retarder there. I'll mix up 4 different colors of blue, different shades, and I'll get 4 brushes and I'm ready to go. And I got an extender in all of them with a little bit of matte medium. It allows me to blend without it having to dry real quick. But on a regular painting, I don't bother with it. I just figured out this is the way I like to do it. I don't need it to slow dry. Golden also now makes what's called open paints, which are supposed to be for plein air acrylic. I bought a set of them, and for me they were too gummy. It was like moving, it's like you were really trying to move plastic. I mean, it was just too gummy. It took a long time to dry, but it gummed up my brush, and then it would lift what was underneath, and I said, to heck with this, I'm not going to bother. I think they still sell it, but it wasn't something I was
Water
impressed.
soluble, everything is water soluble, right?
Everything's
There's no
water
other-
soluble. Yeah. So I also use, what was I going to just say? I mean, they make all kinds of gel mediums. You know, people who do like impasto, they want that thick look, they'll lay it on with modeling paste and all that other stuff, which is fine, but that's just not my thing. I don't do it. Someone said, have you ever tried to paint an abstract? I said, the one time I painted an abstract, I made a bunch of trees. I can't see past images, right? I just can't slop paint on it. I have one thing at home where I have I think it's an 18 by 24, and whatever paint is left over on here, I scrape it off and I throw it on that. That's my abstract. One day I'm going to put it in the show just to see what happens. I hope to God I don't win. So this is more of the dry brush technique. So it may be a little bit harder to see from the back. But again, I'm going for this look here. I still come back to this one. because for me, it's a lot easier to blend these colors. This, I gotta go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. The last one, the washes, you can use matte medium. I don't like it because the problem is matte medium has the color of milk. So when you mix the color together, you don't see the color you're putting on until it dries. It dries clear. And when it dries, like I said, it's permanent, so I can't take it off. But for me, I could never figure out how much paint am I putting in this sucker. So I just said I don't use it usually for washes. But like I said, I'll do a wash here of acrylic. I'm selling these shirts at the end of it if you're interested.
Sign
So, all right, so let's say I'm going to try to do a pink wash over this sucker. Now, I'm really watering it down, almost to like the consistency of watercolor, right? Right.
Well, that's when you thin it with
It's really
water.
thin. It's really thin down
With water.
with water. Right now, you may see it now, but as soon as it dries, it's going to get a lot darker. So let's throw a darker wash on the bottom.
Every time he wipes his shirt. Every time he wipes his shirt.
I do a workshop on this. Don't you people get paint on yourselves when you paint?
Sure.
Never?
But it washes out.
Only in my coffee cup.
Well,
Maybe not
I
intentionally.
drank acrylic paint
You know,
too.
it's supposed to go in the water.
Right. But watercolor wash out of clothes?
Sometimes, unless it's a
Yeah.
staining color, there are colors that are staining.
Yeah, just like acrylic. If you use the Delos, Viridian, right, boom, they stain like crazy. Same with acrylic. So you can probably just start to see as it starts to dry, okay? So that's the idea, is that you're putting layer after layer after layer after layer. Now, let me hit it with a hairdryer. Right? I do that because I learned the hard way. After I hit it with a hairdryer, that canvas is hot. So when I go to put on my next layer, the damn thing dries as soon as the brush hits it. So my wife will walk in, I'm doing this. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm drying the paint. So if I were to do another wash now, it starts to pick up that layer. So now I'm losing a layer. So that's why if I sealed it with matte medium, I can keep put layer after layer after layer. So it's a layer, matte medium, hair dryer, layer, hydrant, so on and on and on.
And the matte medium takes about the same time to dry as the paint itself?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it with a hair dryer, it's dry. So, I'm assuming some of you are married or have a partner. So I have my work in my bonus room, right over the garage. So the piece is there, and I'm 2 weeks working on this sucker. And my wife will walk in and go, something's wrong. I go, what? She goes, there's something wrong. I go, what? She'll go, over here. Something over here. I'm the artist, what the hell do you know? Right? So she'll leave, I'll stand back, I'll go, damn. So I'll go, I'll fix it. She'll come up the next day. oh, you fixed it. I go, I knew it was there, I wanted to see if you saw it. All right, so I'm not going to spend much more time. I think I kind of give you the idea of different ways you can blend acrylic paints.
But what is that thing about?
So what's your title?
What's that? What's the title of this?
Titling it.
This?
Demo.
Hey, isn't that your masterpiece?
I'll sign it if you want to buy it.
Juggling.
I put these two colors up, ivory and Mars black,
Yeah.
for a reason. You know, like I said, I've taken courses up at the County College in color theory. Never put black into a painting, it deadens the color. And it's always stayed in my head, so I go, okay, I never put black on a color. If I need a dark color, like on the monkey, I'll use Payne's Gray. Has a little bit of blue in it, right? It's a nice color. I may mix a little black in it, or more likely I'm gonna mix like a raw umber or burnt umber in with the blue, right, to kind of give me that darker color. But ivory and Mars are actually greens. I'll show you why.
Black and yellow looking.
So if I take, this is Mars, with a little bit of yellow, gives me a nice green, almost like an olive green, right? Now, I could be wrong, but I think Mars is more of the cooler black, and ivory is more of the warmer black. So let's see if we can see a difference between that green and ivory with yellow. So I have started to use a little of this in some of my landscape paintings. I won't say one is warmer or cooler than the other, right? They're just cool greens, right? So I've started playing with that, so I like that. I never knew it either. I forget somebody, I was with somebody someplace and they said, oh, you use black and yellow. I go, what? So I was like, okay, that works for me. So any questions on blending? Blending, not blending, blending. Because you're all going to get up here at the end and do it. All right, so we get rid of this. We get rid of this. Now, where's the painting? So, we're going to paint a barn. Or at least I'm going to start painting a barn. So the gentleman asked me about what colors do I put underneath. So this is the reference photo I'm using. This is a barn on Ironia Road in Chester. I've done a couple paintings of this place. Here's another image of it. So I blew it up because I wanted to get more detail on the barns, right? And I did the same thing. I took the image and I projected it. And I said, well, I don't want any big paintings. I need some smaller works. I thought about maybe doing a 12 by 24, but then I was cutting out too much of the bottom and the top. And I said, nah, I don't like that. I like to have a little bit more sky. So for this, you know, I just threw in some blue. This is, for my skies, I usually use ultramarine and cobalt blue, mix them together. And I just kind of slapped it on here. I didn't even bother with retarder. It was pretty quick. It's a smaller painting. I didn't worry about it. But underneath my grass in the front, I'm going to do this. I'm putting down burnt sienna. When I first started painting landscapes, I was taking green right out of the tube. And I didn't know any better. But it didn't look natural enough. You know, sap green, hocus green, right out of the tube. It doesn't look like grass. It just looks artificial. So I was taking a class up at the college, think it was painting 1, painting 2. And the professor, Keith Smith, who's now really become a good friend of mine, said to me, put the burnt sienna under the green. I looked down and I go, what? Why the hell would I put an orange under the green? He says, I guarantee it, they'll make it sing. Because when we look at grass, there is ground underneath it, and it's not all green. There's something underneath that dirt. So whether it's burnt sienna, raw umber, burnt umber, there's some other color that's under that grass. And the fact that you're going to bounce green over it only makes those two colors sing, right? Color theory, orange complement the green. So that's why I started doing it that way. So I'm going to try to throw in a couple trees here. I got what, 20 minutes? So I can get some trees in here. So when I do trees, I usually take, if I'm doing a summer scene, you can see how long it takes me to find paint. I usually take sap green and I mix in alizarin crimson. If I can't find sap, I'll use alizarin, as you know, is a very transparent color. It stains, right? But for me, it makes some beautiful darks. I do have a palette knife occasionally. I use it to mix the colors together. How am I doing, okay?
Good.
Just good? That's all I get is good?
We haven't seen the barn yet, maybe it'll be excellent.
Well, you're not going to see the barn on this one, that's for sure. All right, so I got a pretty nice dark green on my canvas. I'm just going to start in. Exciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Have everyone's attention.
So, I'm the president of the New Jersey Art Association. That sounds pretty important, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. No one else wants the job. But right now we have about 160 members in our group.
Wow.
Yeah. I have a board of about 12 people. And what's nice is everybody does something. So it doesn't all land up on my shoulders. Otherwise, as I was telling John, I wouldn't do it. I've been in organizations where you join and there's 20 volunteers and 3 people do the work.
Yeah.
That's this place.
Many places.
No comment. I don't know the group.
Do you ever use black canvases, like for the landscape?
No.
Any reason?
I didn't know they made them. I never saw a black canvas.
Yeah, they're great. They're great,
Like
because
gesso,
you know the underpainting that you did with the burnt sienna,
Yeah?
that's give you the nice dark below the grass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the tip, but I won't do it. No, I won't. I'm old, man. I'm not gonna change my habits now. Come on. So I know down here, there's not much sun or sky showing through, so I don't really care too much about here. I don't use brushes probably much bigger than this. Except if I'm doing a big sky. Then I have like the 2-inch brushes that are boom, boom, boom. Otherwise, forget it. So once I get to a certain point, I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. And then I'm going to just start popping. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to do we're trying to avoid is patterns. Right? I don't want all the trees to be at the same level. I want to see some syncopation. And I want to make sure that I'm framing the painting so I keep the viewer in the painting. Doesn't that sound like I know what I'm talking about? Don't you know, you get to a certain point where you know a painting is working, and when there's something wrong, and then you scratch your head and you're saying, what is wrong with this thing, right? I turn it upside down, you're supposed to look at it in a mirror, you know, all that other stuff. I call my wife. Moira, what's wrong with this? Right over there. If she was here, she'd kill me. She's very supportive. I'll give her that. And why it works is because she works during the day and I'm home by myself. Makes for a happy marriage. When she retires, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is like watching paint dry, right? All right. So let's say I'm happy, but I'm not. Let's say I'm happy with this so far. All right, so now I want to start trying to light up these trees. So the first thing I'm trying to keep in mind is where is my light source, right? So I'm going to assume the light's coming somewhere from this way. Because if I look at the photograph, that's what it's telling me, right? It's coming this way, at the front of the barn. I don't know about watercolor, but when you're doing acrylic and you're trying to lighten up red so it doesn't look pink is a challenge. So what I've started to do is I'm mixing red with Naples yellow. And it's giving me a nice kind of a, I don't know what you would call it. I'll show you, I'll put it on the barn here just to show you what I'm talking about.
It's not an orange?
It's not an orange, no. I've tried oranges, I've tried, you name it. Where's my red? So I'm going to take cad red. I'm going to mix in a little, hopefully I brought it. Naples yellow. Do they make Naples yellow in watercolor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little opaque, though.
Yeah, it's okay. So it's cad red with some Naples yellow mixed in. Right, because then if I put the dark red next to it, you'll see it in the final painting. I did bring the painting I finished. So it starts to get a little bit lighter, and I'll keep adding maybe some more Naples yellow. I may throw in some zinc oxide, which is that transparent white. But I don't want it to get too pink. I'm going to go back up to the trees for a minute. I always have a backup too.
It'll be all over his body.
And you do your own laundry, right?
I
I
was just
do.
thinking that.
I do my own laundry.
Mm.
Because I don't like scented detergents, and my wife does.
She's trained you well.
Mhm.
She made it scented.
You may have to ask her that, I'm not
Sent it
sure.
on purpose.
Yeah.
All right, so if I'm gonna bang out some foliage, then I start taking my really small brushes, and I'm just banging away here. So when I do trees like this, it's almost therapeutic. I'm just bouncing away. People go, oh, that must take you forever. I go, not really. I mean, I'm just kind of bouncing away here.
Are you using a different green now?
I'm using Hooker's green, but now I've added in a little bit more yellow. And I may add in some raw sienna. Or I may, if it's more of a distant trees, I may go back with the Naples yellow. So it's a little bit more muted as it goes back. If I was doing an autumn scene, then I would definitely start using burnt sienna, raw sienna, yellow oxide, those type of colors. So right now it looks like pretty crappy. And I always know I'm going to like the painting because in the middle of it I hate it. My wife's name is Moira. She's Irish. She's probably about 5'2". But she'll say to me, "Do you hate it?" I go, "Yeah, I hate it." She goes, "Oh, you'll be okay." Especially, I'm sure you're doing this painting, you're moving along, and all of a sudden you hit a spot, and you can't figure out what the hell to do. Right? And the worst thing is the overworking and overworking and overworking. So once I've done an area 3 times, I go, "That's it. Time for a break." Walk away, put it away. I paint usually Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Usually 5-6 hours a day.
Wow.
I'm retired.
It's like a job.
Yeah, but it's a nice job.
Yeah.
I do my own performance appraisals. Every year I give myself a 5. I exceed expectations in every freaking category. I can't do any better.
Yeah.
I can't do any better.
You got a good boss.
Yeah.
Got a good boss.
I've never had a complaint to HR. I was in corporate America for 30 years, so those appraisal processes were brutal. And there are times when something totally isn't working. I take out a big brush with gesso and say, "Bye, I'm done." And then I go bury it in the closet somewhere. Say, "It's not working, it's not that." I occasionally do commissions. I like, I'll do animal portraits if they want them a little whacked out. But I will do, if someone wants a portrait of a dog, I'll do it. The worst thing I hate to do is house portraits. They drive me nuts. It's like you got to be an architect. And people are particular about their houses, just like they are a portrait. So if God forbid that window's in the wrong spot or it's off by 1/8 of an inch, it's a problem.
Where's Jill?
I was doing a show in Chester, and I get a call the next day from this woman. She says, "I saw you at your booth. I took your card when you weren't there. Can you do a painting in my house?" I wasn't that busy. I said, "Nah, okay." I said, "But I got to take the picture." She goes, "Okay." She gives me the address. She says, "I'll leave the gate open." And I think she wanted like an 18 by 20. She said, "How much is an 18 by 24? I said, "I don't know, it's $800-900, whatever it was." So it didn't register when she said, "Leave the gate." She was in P-PAC. It was a 12-acre estate.
A castle.
I said, "Man, I should have charged you 3 times the price."
Exactly. Never.
I do the painting, and I bring it to her, and she goes, "The roof's the wrong color." She goes, "But it's not a big deal." I go, "No, Alice, you want it? I'll I'm not gonna climb up on a ladder to look at the roof, but I said, I'll take a couple more photographs. I'll try to get it as close as I could. Long story short, I got it to where she liked it, she bought it. She had me come back and do another painting of her garden.
Oh.
And then she calls me and said she had a pool in the backyard. I'm talking, you know, cabana, the whole 9 yards. She goes, I just filled that in, and I put an entire rose garden back there. Would you come and do a painting of it? So, Alice, you filled in the pool? Look, she's got these fountains in the middle of the garden and stuff. I'm thinking, oh my God. So I did the painting, and I said, Alice, I didn't want to ask how much it cost to do this, but it had to be an arm and a leg. And I was trying to figure out, where's she getting this money from? Because she lived there by herself with 3 dogs. So finally, I think it was after the other one, she was in the ball bearing business. So they must have made a fortune making ball bearings. But beautiful house, I mean. I walked in and saw her house, it was like a freaking museum. She had paintings everywhere, it was gorgeous. And then I just did a painting of a white poodle with a shower cap on, with a shower brush in its mouth. And there's a gallery now in Mendham called Artery, run by Lori Patine. And she did an animal show. So I put that in the show, didn't sell. And I said, oh, I'm gonna go pick it up because I'm gonna do a show, I need it. So I go pick it up, and then Lori calls me the other day, Alice came in and wants to buy your poodle painting. I go, I know Alice. I said, yeah, she had a white poodle. She goes, yeah, she wants to buy it. I said, all right, I'll bring it back. So she bought it.
Good customer.
I don't know about you, there aren't that many galleries around here.
No.
There's one that's in Hackettstown, White Space Gallery. We've done a couple shows there with the New Jersey Art Association. And what I liked was, and what I was hoping was, that the owner would like enough of our paintings that he would keep a few of us in the gallery. So he did. He took like 10 of us. And after the show was over, he said, I want to keep these pieces in there. Takes 50% commission, but I said, I'd rather sell it for 50% than having it sit in my house. Right? And then the other gallery is this White Artery Gallery in Mendham. So now I'm just playing. What do I got, like 10 minutes, John?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you keep changing the greens, or are you still the same?
I'm still with the same green, but now I've added a little bit more Naples yellow in. So I would keep going and going and going, and I'll show you the end result. I was doing grass on the bottom here. I mean, I have, these are brushes I use, right? Pretty beat up, do you see that?
Yeah.
This is a fan brush, beat the crap.
Holy God.
Another fan brush could beat the
Nothing
crap.
left of it.
But what's nice about it is when you go to create texture for shrubs or grasses, it's a different stroke and it's a different feel. You know, you can also use sea sponges and that kind of stuff. I know with watercolor you can sprinkle salt on it or something, that happens. I don't think you can do it with acrylic. So I'll just start here, and I'll just start bouncing in green. So I want to cover some of the orange, but not all of it, because then it defeats the purpose. So this is another one when I need therapy, I just do this. So to paint something like this might take me 3-4 hours going back and forth. I'm sure like most of you, I listen to music when I'm painting, and I know I'm doing well if I can't remember what I heard. And I'm a music junkie. I get music CDs from the library all the time. I can't wait to listen to this album. It goes on, it's over, I go, I didn't even hear a song. And it says I was in the zone, right? So I'm in that Zen mode, right, where everything's working. When I hear the album, then I know, hey, this ain't working. Time to do something else.
So now you didn't change your stroke on that, right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
And what green did you use again?
What's that?
What green?
This is hooker's green. Could use sap green. I would very rarely use viridian or phthalo green. in a lawn, just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I guess if you're doing like a rhododendron, some of those other colors where I might throw in viridium. By and large, I don't use those colors very often. I'm moving, John, I'm moving. The other thing with the fan brush is you probably noticed, I mean, they're rounded, so if you're not careful, you start to get that round pattern develop. So that's why I like to cut them. So they're a little beat up. So the more beat up they are, the better I like them. All right. So then I would just keep going like this. So you can see why I can't do a demo in an hour and a half and do a full painting. So I brought the painting finished.
But even in the grasses, you'll change the greens and put yellows and all
Yeah.
that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the finished piece. So there's a, if you come up and see it later on, you can see there's just a little bit of that burnt sienna showing through here. This is my darkest dark, so this is my sap green with the alizarin crimson. And then I'm just bouncing like crazy with these colors. And I want to make sure, you'll notice, I don't even bother putting in tree trunks. Right? What, I mean, you don't really need them, I don't think. Occasionally I will do that. But here's that red with the Naples yellow and some white mixed in. So it's not pink, but at least you know the sun is hitting this side. So I took some artistic license with this, right? So I don't know what this was. Maybe it was weeds or crap, or I don't know. So I decided to put in some corn stalks.
Much better.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Can we do this?